Mei Lin never believed that her life would mirror the tragic fate of the Mei Lin from the legend. Her name, which translated to a flower of strength, promised beauty, tenderness, and a happy life. But fate, like a cruel gardener, plucked the delicate flower, casting it into the whirlpool of cruelty and despair. It all happened suddenly. 13-year-old Mei Lin was walking home from the market, where she helped her parents sell vegetables. Suddenly, rough men emerged from a dark alley, grabbed her, and threw her into a dirty van. Her screams and pleas dissolved into the bustle of the lively city. Horror gripped the girl. She didn't understand what was happening, where they were taking her. Her thoughts swirled like bees that had lost their hive. She imagined horrific scenes that could await her. The van stopped near a dark, dilapidated building. Mei Lin was pushed onto the pavement, where other girls, frightened and bewildered, were already waiting, with tears in their eyes. Their pale faces resembled dim moons illuminated by faint streetlights. The cruel man with a scar on his face, whom the girls nicknamed a Black Dragon, shoved them into the dark basement. The smell of mold and decay permeated the air. "This is your new home," Black Dragon growled. "You will work here until you pay off your debt for the passage." Mei Lin didn't understand what he was talking about. What debt? What passage? She wanted to ask, but fear choked her. The girls, weakened and frightened, sat silently on the dirty floor. Mei Lin huddled against the wall, trying to hold back her tears. Her once carefree and joyful life had suddenly turned into a horrific nightmare. The following days became a hell for Mei Lin. She, along with other girls, was forced to work in a house of debauchery. Their young bodies became commodities sold for money. Mei Lin didn't give up. She remembered her grandmother's tales of strength of spirit and faith in a better future. She knew she had to escape, find her way back home. One day, when Black Dragon was drunk, Mei Lin managed to escape. She wandered through dark streets, not knowing where to go. She was scared and hungry, but she refused to give up. Finally, she found shelter in a small Chinatown. There she met a kind old lady, Miss Chen, who helped her hide. Miss Chen told Mei Lin about the cruel treatment of Chinese immigrants in America. She taught her English and told her about the Four Treasures of the Sky, a secret organization that helped Chinese women in distress. Mei Lin decided to join the Four Treasures of the Sky. She wanted to help other girls who had suffered from cruel treatment. Mei Lin became a member of the Four Treasures of the Sky. The organization operated underground, led by a mysterious woman known as a heavenly dragon. Legend spoke of her combat skills and ability to command the elements. Mei Lin underwent training. Miss Chen taught her self-defense and basic hand-to-hand combat techniques. She also trained with a dagger, a cold weapon that could be easily concealed. The training was rigorous, but Mei Lin was fueled by a desire to help others. Her first task was simple: to scout the situation in a new brothel that had recently opened. Disguised as an adult woman, Mei Lin infiltrated under the guise of a client. She witnessed the horrific conditions in which the girls lived. They were locked up, fed meager portions, and threatened. Mei Lin barely contained her anger and sympathy for the captives. Choosing the right moment, Mei Lin passed a secret note to one of the girls, indicating the meeting place for escape. At night, during a storm, when the noise of the downpour drowned out all other sounds, chaos ensued. Lightning illuminated the dirty courtyard where the girls awaited the signal. Mei Lin, along with the other treasures of the sky, attacked the guards. Their movements were swift and precise. Some girls, frightened, couldn't escape. Mei Lin had to leave them behind, promising to return. They disappeared into the raging storm like ghosts, leaving only the whisper of thunder and flashes of lightning behind them. Returning to the headquarters of the four treasures of the sky, they discussed the failure. The heavenly dragon, wrapped in a black cloak, listened attentively to the reports. Her voice, when she spoke, was low and commanding, like the rustle of wind through a bamboo grove. "Mei Lin, you acted bravely. But we cannot leave the other girls there." Silence fell in the room. Mei Lin felt a wave of determination. She wanted to go back to save those who couldn't escape. But was such a mission possible? "I can go again," said Mei Lin, her voice trembling, not from fear but from passion. "I know the layout of the rooms, the guard schedule. Maybe this time." The heavenly dragon raised her hand, halting her. "Do not rush, Mei Lin. Strength is not the only weapon in our arsenal. We need a plan, cunning." She unfolded a large map of the city on the table, her fingers tracing the path to the brothel. "There's an old, neglected building nearby. It could become our shelter." The next few days were spent planning. Mei Lin recounted everything she remembered about the building and the guards. They discussed various distraction and infiltration tactics. One of the key elements of the plan was a new member of the four treasures of the sky, a girl known as Fiery Bird. She was a skilled acrobat and adept at sleight of hand. Her task was to stage a spectacle on the street in front of the brothel, distracting the guards. Finally, the day of the operation arrived. Mei Lin, dressed in dark clothing, felt a mix of excitement and determination. They moved under the cover of night like shadows, their steps light and silent. Fiery Bird, like a bright butterfly, appeared on the street in front of the brothel. Her movements were fast and graceful. She juggled fire, threw knives, and performed incredible tricks. The guards, mesmerized by the spectacle, momentarily lost their vigilance. It was their chance. Mei Lin and the other treasures of the sky seized the opportunity. They quickly climbed over the wall of the neglected building adjacent to the brothel. Using ropes and hooks, they infiltrated the premises. Mei Lin knew the layout. They moved quickly and quietly. Freeing the first group of girls, they whispered for them to gather near the old building. Suddenly, Black Dragon appeared out of nowhere. His face contorted with fury, the scar on his cheek darkened. He held a whip in his hand and threatened them. Mei Lin froze. Her heart pounded like a bird trapped in a cage. She realized that Black Dragon was a serious obstacle. Tension in the room hung thick, like a fog. Mei Lin felt her body instinctively tense, preparing for battle. The other treasures of the sky froze as well, their hands involuntarily reaching for their concealed weapons. Black Dragon seemed to relish their apprehension. He slowly unfurled his whip, the clicking of the leather piercing the silence of the room. "Well, little flowers," he sneered, his voice dripping with disdain. "The game of hide and seek is over. It's time to pay for your antics." Mei Lin gritted her teeth. She couldn't allow Black Dragon to stop them. Her gaze quickly scanned the room, searching for an opportunity to maneuver. Suddenly she noticed a slightly ajar window. It led to the backyard, cluttered with old debris and broken crates. It was their chance. "Run!" she shouted to the other girls, simultaneously darting toward the window. Her movements were fast and instinctive. She leaped through the window, feeling the sharp night cold. The other treasures of the sky snapped out of their shock and rushed toward the exit. Black Dragon roared in anger, but it was too late. Mei Lin landed on the hard ground of the backyard, a sharp pain shooting through her leg. She quickly got up, ignoring the pain, and ran toward the old building where the liberated girls awaited. Luckily, the other treasures of the sky managed to escape as well. They rushed into the building, closing the leaning door behind them. Inside, amidst chaos and panic, the girls gathered. Some of them cried while others held on to each other tightly. Mei Lin felt a wave of sympathy and responsibility for them. "We're safe," she said, trying to reassure them with her trembling voice. "We made it out." But her own heart pounded like a bird in a cage. She knew Black Dragon wouldn't stop. They needed to disappear from here as quickly as possible. "We need to move," said the Heavenly Dragon, her voice firm and decisive. "They will come after us." She looked at Fiery Bird. "Do you know the local tunnels? The ones the old-timers talked about?" Fiery Bird nodded. "Yes, there are old legends about a network of tunnels under the city. They say they lead to the river." Hope flickered in Mei Lin's eyes. The river could be their escape route. "Then lead us," commanded the Heavenly Dragon. Fiery Bird surged forward, guiding them through the dark corridors of the old building. They descended down creaky stairs leading to the basement. The basement was damp and cold, the smell of mold and decay hanging in the air. Fiery Bird retrieved a small lantern, its feeble light barely piercing through the darkness. The damp and chilly basement pressed in on them from all sides. Moss-covered brick walls exuded antiquity. Mei Lin followed Fiery Bird, each of her steps echoing a dull thud in the silence. The liberated girls, resembling frightened fledglings, huddled together, their breaths directed toward the dim light of the lantern. The quiet drip of water somewhere deeper disturbed the silence. This sound reminded Mei Lin that time was passing and they were still trapped. Finally, Fiery Bird stopped beside an old, weathered wall. She ran her hand over the rough surface, pressing on a few bricks. Suddenly, with a click, a small opening appeared. It was too narrow for an adult, but large enough for a child to squeeze through. The Heavenly Dragon looked at the liberated girls, her gaze unwavering. "Those who cannot or do not want to crawl through, stay here. We'll come back for them later. But be cautious." Some girls, frightened and exhausted, refused to go further. Others, inspired by the prospect of freedom, began to crawl through the opening. Mei Lin helped them, soothing them with whispers. Finally, it was her turn. She took a deep breath, gritting her teeth, and started to crawl through the narrow opening. It was painful and uncomfortable, but the thought of Black Dragon propelled her forward. When she emerged on the other side, she found herself in a low, narrow tunnel. The smell of earth, dampness, and something old and musty hit her nose. Fiery Bird was already moving ahead, her silhouette barely visible in the darkness. Mei Lin followed her, her hands feeling the rough walls of the tunnel. They navigated through the labyrinth of underground passages. Some tunnels were narrow and low, forcing them to crawl, while others were wider, allowing them to walk bent over. Sometimes they encountered forks, but Fiery Bird confidently led them forward. The sound of dripping water grew louder. Mei Lin realized they were nearing the source of the sound. Finally, after what seemed like an eternity, the tunnel widened, and they found themselves near an underground river. The faint light of the lantern reflected off the dark, calm water. Mei Lin smelled freshness, and a breeze swept through the tunnel, carrying the scent of freedom. "This is an underground river," whispered Fiery Bird. "It leads to the outskirts of the city. We can find a boat or raft and float downstream." Hope flared in Mei Lin's heart. They were almost free. But she knew Black Dragon wouldn't give up. "We need to hurry," said the Heavenly Dragon, her voice solemnly echoing in the tunnel's silence. "The danger is not yet over." They began to search for any items that could be used as a raft. Finally, they got lucky. They found several old rotting planks and scraps of rope. With these materials they constructed an improvised raft, flimsy but sturdy enough to hold them all. Mei Lin felt her legs trembling, but not from the cold. It was nervous excitement mixed with a wave of relief. She helped the other girls onto the raft. Their faces, illuminated by the dim light of the lantern, were pale, but the terror in their eyes had diminished. The heavenly dragon pushed the raft away from the rocky shore of the river. It slowly drifted downstream, the cold, dark water almost reaching the plank's midpoint. Mei Lin gripped the edge of the raft to keep from falling. Fiery Bird walked ahead, illuminating the path with the lantern. The silence of the tunnel was replaced by the gurgling of the underground river and the dripping of water from the ceiling. They floated for hours, or at least it felt that way to them. Time in the underground world lost its meaning. Mei Lin was beginning to think the tunnels had no end when suddenly a glimmer appeared before them. Light! Weak but real light. Hope surged anew in their hearts. They were approaching the exit. The raft emerged from the underground opening, entering a narrow inlet. The moon, resembling a silver crescent, hung high in the sky, its light reflecting off the calm surface of the river. Silhouettes of trees lined the bay's shore. Mei Lin took a deep breath, filling her lungs with the fresh night air. They were free. The heavenly dragon instructed them to remain quiet. They disembarked from the raft and hid behind the trees. The surroundings seemed unfamiliar, but it didn't matter. They were far from the den of debauchery and black dragon. "We'll find refuge in the city," said the heavenly dragon. "There are people there who will help us." She looked at Mei Lin, her gaze filled with gratitude. "You saved them, Mei Lin. You're a true treasure of the sky." Mei Lin felt her cheeks flush. She wasn't accustomed to praise, but her heart swelled with pride. For the first time in a long while she felt not just fear, but also strength and hope. Together they ventured into the night, leaving behind the dark underground tunnels and horrifying memories. Ahead of them lay a new dawn, new challenges, but also the freedom they had dearly earned. The journey to safety proved long and arduous. They wandered through unfamiliar streets, avoiding bustling districts and watchful guards. Some girls, weakened and frightened, couldn't bear the burdens of the journey and fell behind the group. Mei Lin helped the heavenly dragon maintain their fighting spirit, recounting stories of brave heroines from Chinese legends whose strength of spirit helped them overcome all obstacles. Finally, after days of wandering, they reached a small Chinese quarter. Everything here was familiar: the clamor of noisy traders, the scents of spices and fried food, the melodic sounds of flutes. They took refuge in a small tea house owned by a kindly old woman known as Grandma Li. Grandma Li, a former member of the Four Treasures of the Sky who had retired from the business, was shocked by their dreadful plight. She fed and comforted them, providing them shelter. Over the next few days the girls recovered, sharing the details of their horrifying ordeal with Grandma Li and the heavenly dragon. These stories were gruesome, but they helped the girls heal, allowing them to share their pain and receive support. Meanwhile, the heavenly dragon and Mei Lin discussed vengeance. They knew Black Dragon wouldn't give up until he found them. They decided to strike back, liberate the other girls, and shut down the den of debauchery for good. The plan was risky. They needed help. The heavenly dragon reached out to other members of the Four Treasures of the Sky who operated undercover in various districts of the city. Together they devised a daring operation. The night of the attack was dark and rainy. Mei Lin, dressed in black, felt a mixture of nervousness and determination. They gathered at an abandoned warehouse near the den of debauchery. There they were joined by other treasures of the sky, armed with daggers and combat chains. The heavenly dragon, her voice firm and authoritative, gave a brief briefing. This night will be decisive. Let's act quickly, quietly, and in unison. The main goal is to free the girls. They split into two groups. One, led by Fiery Bird, was to divert the attention of the guards by setting a small fire in the backyard. The other group, led by the Heavenly Dragon, was to infiltrate the house and free the girls. Mei Lin, along with the Heavenly Dragon and several others, slipped into the building through an old ventilation opening on the roof. They moved swiftly and silently, their bodies coordinated like those of predators. Upon reaching the room where the girls were held, they heard screams and cries. With a single kick, the Heavenly Dragon smashed the door open. The frightened and bewildered girls rushed towards them. "Quickly follow us," shouted the Heavenly Dragon. Meanwhile, chaos reigned outside. The shouts of the guards mingled with the crackling of burning wood. Fiery Bird and her group expertly diverted attention. Mei Lin helped the girls descend the stairs. Their hearts pounded, but they knew that every lost second increased the risk. Suddenly, the black dragon emerged from the dark corridor. His face contorted with rage, a scar on his cheek seemed to burst with anger. He gripped a thick whip in his hand, ready to strike. Mei Lin froze. Fear momentarily gripped her heart, but she quickly regained control. She couldn't allow the black dragon to halt their mission. Without hesitation, the Heavenly Dragon stood between the girls and the black dragon. Her stance was proud and unwavering, despite the difference in size. "Finally, you've fallen into my hands, Heavenly Dragon," growled the black dragon, his voice hoarse with anger. "Your reign of terror ends today," replied the Heavenly Dragon, her voice as firm as steel. They engaged in a deadly duel. Their movements were fast and precise, the air whistling with their strikes. Mei Lin and the other girls watched the battle, holding their breath. They knew that their freedom depended on its outcome. Despite his strength and brutality, the black dragon underestimated the Heavenly Dragon. Her movements were light and graceful, using speed and agility to evade his powerful attacks. Suddenly, the Heavenly Dragon made a sharp lunge and kicked the black dragon in the knee. He staggered back from the pain, losing his balance. Without hesitation, she seized the moment and struck him with all her might with her elbow under the chin. The black dragon emitted a choked gasp and collapsed unconscious to the ground. A silence fell, so thick that one could hear the beating of their own heart. Mei Lin and the other girls couldn't believe their eyes. The Heavenly Dragon had won. "Forward," shouted the Heavenly Dragon, her voice slightly hoarse from tension. "We need to disappear from here." They ran out of the building, leaving the unconscious black dragon behind. Fiery Bird and her group were already waiting for them at the back exit. Together, they ran into the night, disappearing into the labyrinth of city streets. They knew they needed to find a more secure hiding place, but for now it was crucial to break away from pursuit as quickly as possible. At dawn, they reached a small Buddhist monastery located outside the city. The nuns sheltered them, offering food, shelter, and protection. In the monastery, the girls finally felt safe. They began to heal not only physically but also emotionally. The nuns taught them meditation and self-defense, helping them overcome the traumas of the past. Mei Lin continued to train with the Heavenly Dragon. Her skills grew, and she became one of the strongest members of the Four Treasures of the Sky. News of the downfall of the brothel and the defeat of the Black Dragon quickly spread through the city. Many girls who had previously suffered violence were inspired by their escape story. They began to turn to the Four Treasures of the Sky for help. Mei Lin and other members of the organization continued their fight. They rescued girls from captivity, exposed criminals, and aided the oppressed. Although the path of the four treasures of the sky was fraught with danger, Mei Lin no longer felt like a helpless victim. She became a symbol of hope and strength for many. Several years passed. Mei Lin grew from a timid girl into a confident young woman. Her eyes, once filled with fear, now sparkled with determination and compassion. She mastered various martial arts, learning to defend herself and others. One night, as the moon shone like a silver coin, a frantic messenger arrived at the monastery. He brought news that the black dragon had reappeared. He had recovered from his defeat and now sought revenge on the four treasures of the sky. Tension hung in the air. Mei Lin felt the adrenaline pulsing through her veins. She knew she couldn't allow the black dragon to terrorize the city again. The heavenly dragon gathered all the members of the organization. Her gaze was firm and resolute. The black dragon has returned. But this time we will be ready. We will put an end to his villainy once and for all. The nuns, though concerned, understood the necessity of protecting the innocent. They blessed the four treasures of the sky and helped them prepare for battle. The following days were filled with planning and training. Mei Lin and the other girls honed their combat skills, preparing for the inevitable confrontation. They knew that the black dragon would likely arm his men, so they needed to stay one step ahead. Finally, the night of the battle arrived. Mei Lin, dressed in dark clothing, stood shoulder to shoulder with the heavenly dragon and the other girls. They knew danger awaited them, but their resolve was unwavering. According to intelligence, the black dragon planned to raid a new shelter for escapees, established by the four treasures of the sky. Mei Lin and her comrades decided to set up an ambush. They hid in the shadowy alleys near the shelter, awaiting the appearance of the black dragon and his men. Tension mounted with each passing minute. Suddenly, the nocturnal silence was broken by the creak of boots. From the darkness emerged the silhouettes of armed men, led by the imposing figure of the black dragon. At the signal from the heavenly dragon, the four treasures of the sky sprang from their ambush. A cry of surprise rang out in the air as the battle began. Mei Lin moved like a whirlwind, her fists and feet striking attackers with precision and force. The battle was fierce. Cries of pain mingled with the clang of swords. Mei Lin watched as the heavenly dragon fought the black dragon. Their clash was a dance of death. Finally, after long minutes of struggle, Mei Lin saw her opportunity. She quickly moved behind the black dragon and with a powerful kick, knocked him to the ground. The heavenly dragon seized this moment. She held a sharp knife to the black dragon's throat. "Your tyranny ends today," she said coldly. The black dragon lay on the ground, his face contorted with rage and helplessness. His criminal activities had finally come to an end. The news of the black dragon's defeat spread through the city like wildfire. Women who had lived in fear for years could finally breathe a sigh of relief. The four treasures of the sky became a legend, a symbol of hope and strength. Mei Lin, despite enduring significant trauma, was no longer a broken girl. Her story became an inspiration to many. She and other members of the organization continued their mission, helping those in need of protection. They opened self-defense schools for women and girls, teaching them to stand up to their oppressors. Several more years passed. Mei Lin became a master of martial arts, her name evoking respect and admiration. She took on the role of mentor, teaching a new generation of the four treasures of the sky. One warm evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky with vibrant colors, Mei Lin trained with a young girl named Lan. Lan resembled Mei Lin in her youth, fearful and uncertain. But in her eyes burned a fire of determination. Mei Lin effortlessly blocked Lan's strikes, her movements graceful and precise. "You're getting stronger, Lan," she said, smiling slightly. "But I'll never be like you, Mei Lin," Lan replied, slightly out of breath. "You're a legend." Mei Lin stopped and placed a hand on Lan's shoulder. "Legends are made every day, Lan. Every time you defend the weak or fight for justice, you become part of something greater. You are a new treasure of the sky." Lan smiled, her eyes shining with pride. She knew that the unknown lay ahead of her, but now she was ready. Mei Lin looked at her, feeling a sense of peace and hope. That the four treasures of the sky would continue to protect the city generation after generation, and no one would ever live in fear again. Thank you for being with us today. I hope that this story has brought you emotions. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to like it, subscribe to the channel and click on the bell so you don't miss any of our new stories. Thank you for your support. You are the best.